Hi guys, it's Kate again. So, are you planning to apply for a UK tourist visa but you don't know where to start? Have you tried searching online but you find all the information too overwhelming? Well then, lucky for you. I am going to discuss a step-by-step guide on how to apply for a UK tourist visa. If you'd like to find out, please keep watching. Now, this video may be a country-specific guide, but for those of you who are not from the Philippines, this video might still be helpful for you because I'm going to give out a tip or two on how to apply a UK tourist visa. So, just a disclaimer, I am not an expert in immigration or UK tourist visa, but my opinion is based from my own experience. So first and foremost, I have been to the UK twice. Both are for visit purposes. So first, how to apply a UK tourist visa. So first and foremost, UK tourist visa is not going to be lodged at the British Embassy in Manila. You have to submit your application through their official partner, which is VFS Global. The good part about applying for a visa for UK is that there are no interviews, unlike for when you apply for a visa to the US. But the thing about not having an interview is that you won't be able to express or you won't be able to explain yourself a little bit more as to why you want to visit the UK. So, considering that you won't be able to explain yourself in person or through an interview, you will have to do all of it through papers. So you will have to submit as much or as many documents as you can to support your application. So, restrictions. Your visit cannot be more than 6 months. You have to have enough money to support yourself during your visit without working or needing help from public funds. Or you can have a sponsor. Like myself, back then when I applied for a tourist visa, my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, he was my sponsor. So I will explain a little bit more about that later on. You are not allowed to work while you are on a visit visa. This is the most common misconception by many. They think that once you're in the UK, you're automatically allowed to find work. No. You're not allowed to work. Otherwise, you're risking yourself of being deported and you can be banned for 10 years as well. Judging by the name itself, tourist visa, you're a tourist, you're on a visit, so you're not allowed to work. Next, you will not marry or register a civil partnership. This is not allowed. If you intend to marry your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you will have to go back to your home country and apply for a fiancé visa from there. You cannot register a civil partnership or a wedding or anything like that while you're on a visit visa. Your tourist visa is strictly just for visit purposes. So, next question is when? When can you apply for your tourist visa? UK visa can be applied for a maximum of 3 months from your intended date of entry. So, my intended entry way back in 2014 was in November. So, since my intended entry back then was in November, I lodged my application in September. Yeah, I lodged my application in September. It doesn't have to be 3 months ahead. It depends on you. But if you'd like to get everything out of the way as early as 3 months from your intended date of entry, you are free to do so. Next is there are 2 parts in making your application. First is you have to submit an online application. Next is you will have to make an appointment to submit your biometric and supporting documents. Next is you will have to book and attend an appointment at a visa application center. There are 2 visa application center in the Philippines. One is in Cebu and one is in Manila. I'm not so sure whereabouts in Cebu the visa application center is because I've never submitted my documents there. Both times I applied for my UK tourist visa, I applied through the VFS Global in Manila. If you live in the province like myself, You will have to fly to Cebu or to Manila because you will have to submit your supporting documents in person. You cannot mail your documents. You cannot ask someone else to submit them for you because you have to do the biometric where they take your fingerprints and take a photo of you for if ever you get the visa, that picture is gonna be in that visa. Next is you will need to have the following ready for your application. A printed and duly signed copy of your online application form, your passport valid for an ample amount of time. This is because they will retain your passport until a decision is made. You'll also need to submit your previous passports, original supporting documents with photocopies and translations if they aren't in English, a printed copy of the supporting document checklist, a proof of payment of the visa application fee, a recent photograph not more than 6 months old. You'll need to submit your NBI clearance as well and a copy of your birth certificate. And don't forget, it has to be an original copy. And last but not the least, you will have to make a cover letter. You will have to explain why you want to visit the UK and what your plans are. In my letter, I explained that I wanted to celebrate Christmas and New Year with my boyfriend and his family. I wanted to celebrate Valentine's Day with him. My husband's birthday is on the 3rd of March. So I also included that in my letter. Now, supporting documents. What are these? These are documents that will show that you have ties in the Philippines. Ties meaning you have something or someone to come back to. It's your proof that you are definitely going to come back. This can be your family, properties or assets, employment, or school. You must have the documents to show that you can sustain yourself while you're in the UK without needing to find an employment. You can also have a sponsor. Now, let me go in depth with the ties. In my experience, the first time I went to the UK, my ties was that I was still in school. And I requested for a certificate of enrollment from our registrar. I was actually a graduating student back then. I was in my senior year in college. I didn't have any more subjects left. I was scheduled to graduate in March, but since my intended date of entry was in November, I had to prove why, or I have to prove that I'm going to come back in the Philippines through my school. Now, I cannot remember specifically what it said on that sheet of paper. As far as I can remember, it said there that I no longer have any more subjects left and that I am scheduled to graduate in March. That alone proved that I am indeed coming back, because why would I risk not coming back? And it's graduation. It's like I'm free. I'm done with school. So yes. If you are working, you can request a certificate of employment from your HR. It has to indicate, or it has to state the date for when you're coming back from your leave. To be honest, I wasn't really quite sure that my visa application was gonna be approved back then, because I don't know, it's just a leap of faith for me. I never even thought of going to an agency to help me with my application, because I just think that they are a scam. Like, they're only going to prolong your visa application process and they're going to cost you loads of money. Might as well do it yourself. Honestly, do it yourself. Now, let's say you have a sponsor. Your sponsor will have to provide 6 months worth of bank statements, 6 months worth of payslips, and proof of address. This can be a bill or a utility bill or an internet bill or whatsoever, where it indicates his or her full address, and this will prove that he or she actually lives there. Now, in my case, I had my sponsor to provide all those documents for me. These are the documents that I provided. I provided 6 months worth of bank statements from my husband or from my boyfriend, 6 months worth of pay slips, their electric bill. Now, since he was still living with his parents back then and the house was under their names, I asked them to draft a letter saying that they welcome me into their house or into their home for the whole duration of my stay. Since that complicated things a little bit, because my main sponsor was my boyfriend and the owner of their house was his parents, so I also drafted a sponsorship declaration. So you will also need this if you have a sponsor, which indicates the name of your sponsor, where they live, where they work, how much they earn, where or the address of their workplace, and all that jazz. Don't you worry, I'm going to put a link down below to a Dropbox folder where you will find all the supporting documents you will be needing. Now, apart from the sponsorship declaration, you will also need a sponsorship letter. Since it was my boyfriend who was my main sponsor back then, it was as if he was the one explaining everything. Like, the words are his, and it has to explain why you want to, or why he or she wants to invite you over. Okay? It has to be complete and precise and as much as possible clear. Now, for the signature, it wasn't just my boyfriend who signed the letter, although the letter mainly contained his words. But since his parents were also part of the sponsorship, I also asked them to sign the letter as well. Please also include a few photos of you and your sponsor together. You need to submit a copy of your sponsor's birth certificate. You'll also have to include your boarding passes and flight itineraries together, hotel bookings under your sponsor's name during his visit in the Philippines. Include a few screenshots of your online chats as well. These are just to prove that you've indeed met your sponsor prior to your travel. If you've never met your sponsor, I'd hate to break it to you, but your visa application is very likely to be denied because they don't consider online relationship genuine. All documents coming from your sponsor can be just photocopies. If you do have a sponsor, this doesn't mean you don't have to provide any supporting documents that you can sustain yourself. No, 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 no. Back then, I submitted 6 months worth of bank statements as well. So you will have to have money in your bank account. You cannot have zero money. You cannot have zero money even though you have a sponsor who has shitloads of money. You will have to have money on your own. Now, in my case, it so happened that my dad retired back then. He's a retired cop and he received quite a good amount of money and he gave me my share. I would say you should have at least 100,000 pesos in the bank. That's more or less $2,000 and more or less 1,400 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. So, money. If say you have 100,000 pesos cash, you should not deposit it in one go. No, 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 no. Why? Because this might give them the idea that the money isn't yours, that you just borrowed it from someone and right after you submit your application, you're just gonna return the money to them. So what I did back then was I divided my money into 4 or 5. So since my intended date of travel was in November and I was supposed to start depositing money in my bank in May, since that marks the first month for the whole 6 months until November. My dad didn't retire or didn't receive his money until June, so I started putting money in my bank account in June. So it shouldn't hurt if you could not put money in your bank for like 6 months and once a month, but at least have some money in there. I'm not so sure if you really have to have at least 100,000 pesos, but that was what I was told. My mom have a friend in the UK and she was really, really helpful. And she gave me this tip that I should have this kind of amount of money at least in my account. So it'll give them the impression that I could indeed sustain myself for the whole duration of my stay. Moving on to my experience. This like having money in your account is very, very important, because when I arrived at the immigration in London Heathrow Airport, I was asked a bunch of questions. I can't remember all of the questions specifically, but I could remember a few of them. So she asked me why I'm visiting the UK. So I told her that I'm visiting my boyfriend and his family. She then asked, how are you traveling if you're still in college? I then said, I don't have any more subjects left. I just have to come back to the Philippines for my graduation and I couldn't miss it. And then she then asked, do you have money in your bank? I said, yes, I do. And then she asked, how much? How much? Not in a million years did I expect her or anyone at the immigration to ask me that question. How much? So I then asked her, do you want me to tell you in peso or in pounds? Like a bitch. She then said, pounds, please. I said, I have this much. So she then asked, if something goes wrong while you're here and you have to go home to the Philippines, will you be able to buy a ticket for yourself on your own, like using your own money? And then I just told her, yes, I can. I will book a ticket straight away. And then she was like, so who's here to pick you up? I said, my boyfriend and his parents. And then she just went like, okay. She stamped my passport and then I was good to go. As far as I remember, I was there for longer than that, or maybe it's just my imagination, or I don't know, but it wasn't as quick as that. She honestly asked me more questions than that, but I just couldn't remember anymore. So I hope that you've learned a thing or two from this video, and I wish you best of luck on your visa application. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave some comments down below. See you on my next video.
Next
Bye.
is you have to book and attend an application at... So at that note, if you live in the province, you'll have to apply. So at that note, if you live in the province like myself, you will have myself. Next is you will have to have the following for your app. Ouch, it's so itchy. My eyebrows itchy. Back. Now, let me go in depth. I was actually a graduating student back then. I was actually a graduating student, which is like a semester break for high school or for college. Oh, I can't remember anymore. Where was I? To apply for your UK visa. Oh my goodness, shut the fuck up! Whatever.